How do you visualize complex positions in blindfold chess? Have you ever wondered how chess players can play without seeing the board? It might seem impossible, but there are techniques that help them visualize complex positions in blindfold chess. Let's break down how they do it. First, players relying on core visualization techniques. They memorize square coordinates and the relationships between pieces. Instead of seeing a full three-dimensional board, they use abstract spatial awareness. For instance, a bishop on b7 controls specific diagonals, like from a8 to h1, by recalling memorized pathways rather than picturing the entire board. Next, pattern recognition plays a big role. Experienced players simplify their visualization by using tactical patterns such as pins, forks, and skewers. They break down positions into smaller, familiar parts. This helps them manage the mental load. They often simulate moves and counter moves in their heads, focusing first on the most critical lines. Memory anchors are also essential. Key squares or pieces serve as reference points. A player might concentrate on a centralized knight or an open file's rook. This method helps them reconstruct the board. Associating colors with squares, like remembering that a one is always dark, aids in verifying square identities during mental navigation. Training drills can boost these skills. For example, players can practice naming square colors or coordinates at random. They can also mentally track a single piece and list all the squares it controls. Another exercise is to reconstruct a game move by move without a board, starting with short sequences and gradually increasing complexity. When solving puzzles blindfolded, players often isolate critical elements first. They identify the most active pieces or weaknesses. Layering calculations is another technique where they focus on one variation at a time, discarding irrelevant lines early. After each hypothetical move, they mentally check piece positions to avoid losing track. Some specialized terms come into play as well. Blindfold drift refers to the tendency to misplace pieces over time due to mental fatigue. Players combat this by frequently re-anchoring to key squares. Quadrant mapping is another strategy, where the board is divided into four sections to simplify navigation. Not all players visualize in the same way. Some use spatial or verbal memory instead of mental imagery. They might associate positions with tactile cues or rhythmically verbalize coordinates to reinforce memory. Advanced players often combine visualization with auditory or kinesthetic cues. They might mentally hear move notations or feel piece movements. Playing multiple games simultaneously in a blindfold format further hones these skills by compartmentalizing each game's key landmarks. Common pitfalls include overloading by trying to track every piece. Instead, players should prioritize active pieces and critical squares. They also need to update their mental board dynamically after each move, like erasing and redrawing it in their minds. Regularly replaying classic games mentally reinforces pattern storage. By integrating these techniques, players build the mental flexibility needed to handle complex positions in blindfold chess. This turns abstract spatial reasoning into a reliable tool for success in the game.